Okay, so look, chat. I was attempting to play Resident Evil games before the new one came out. I do not have the time to do that before Requiem comes out because it comes out this month. So, uh, we're gonna watch a bunch of shit about Resident Evil games and see which ones of them are actually worth playing. That's kind of the plan. So we're starting out with Resident Evil 0. Apparently there was an HD remaster, but the HD remaster was like what, a decade ago? So I don't know how good that actually is. But we're gonna listen to it about it. I have 3 videos queued up. I've got this one from Gameranks, or however the fuck you say that, which is just like a before you buy. And then I have one video about why it's bad, and then one video about why it's underrated. That way we can kind of see different perspectives about it, and I can kind of make my own decision about whether I want to put it on the list of games to play. Because after the new Resident Evil comes out, I will want to make a list of like games that I want to try, because everybody loves fucking Resident Evil, man. Everybody loves Resident Evil, and I just don't have an experience with it. So, but the new one looks sick, and I've been more into horror lately. So, yeah, we're just gonna see. But yeah, this is just a before you buy, so I guess it's just kind of like an overall, and it's 5 minutes. It's like not
Presents
anything.
another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some raw, uncut gameplay and some first impressions of the latest games releasing. Listen, the middle of January is a bit of a slow month, but we're talking about Resident Evil 0, the HD remaster. We don't usually cover these, but we figured we'd give it a try because we all love Resident Evil, and so
yeah, we all
stack up?
love Resident Evil. Look, I just know people love Leon and
well, I can tell
the
you that
Asian
it holds
lady.
up pretty damn good. Like the HD remaster of the Resident Evil remake that we got a few
That's
months
the
ago.
remaster?
Resident Evil 0 is once again a competent port to PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Christ.
It's got a higher resolution. It's running at 60 frames per
That
second.
does not look
damn good.
very
I've been arguing for years
good
these games
for a
are still some
remaster,
of the
but I guess I don't know what the
better-looking
original
video
looked
games ever.
like.
Just the art design. You guys could probably tell the lighting, the environment.
So I'm guessing this is a
Are actually
prequel.
just static images for the most part, but they still look damn good. This is a creepy, atmospheric game, and it's very much
guessing
an
this is a
original
prequel.
Resident Evil game. Even though it came out in the early 2000s, it is very much in the same vein as classic Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 in terms of gameplay style, like controls and puzzle solving and all that shit. This is real survival horror. This is the survival horror you hear your parents talk about, where, you know, ammo is scarce, you have to push crates
That's what I'm
around and
afraid
find
of.
keys,
What
and
if I
use herbs
start
to heal yourself? It's just
these
classic Resident
games
Evil, and it's really good. This time around,
and I run
it
out
tells
of
the story
ammo?
circling
Can you
around
just
the Umbrella Mansion story, and you can play as
punch
Rebecca Chambers. Rebecca Chambers is a
zombies?
surviving STARS unit member who gets caught up in this whole side plot with ex-convict and former military man Billy Cohen, who is of course stereotypically
Okay, so this
badass
isn't a
and
Leon
kind
game.
of really
This is a
corny and awful,
Rebecca
and
game.
he,
I've never heard of
He's very
Rebecca.
dated. Let's just say that. What this Resident Evil does that's really cool, it actually handles a two-player dynamic very well. I don't mean two players, I mean two characters rather, where you control
okay,
a
the
main
new
character
one.
and another character follows you.
Yeah, the new one is gonna be
two
two characters too.
And it's frustrating. Most of the time, they're pretty
It's Leon
smart.
and then
they
the
know when to move
girl,
around. They know when to
whose name
conserve
I
ammo,
can't think of right
when
now.
to fight, when not to fight, and you can move them out of harm's way
How
with
do
the
you
right
not
analog stick.
fight?
It works very well, and it's implemented pretty good. There are occasional moments in the game where they break you up, and the segments are really good. And thankfully, you can switch between
Oh, you just
characters
run
with the press of a
away.
button, and it's almost instantaneous. It's very impressive how they handle this, especially considering this game was originally made in the early 2000s. That being said, since you do control two characters,
Okay, so if you
now
break
can
line of
swap items
sight,
around between
you're
them,
good.
but the only
Okay,
other
okay,
resolution
okay.
is to leave items on the ground. They do show you where they are on the
Leave
map, but
items
ultimately
on
it
the
feels like kind of a
ground?
downgrade for the already really shitty and old inventory system. This wasn't a good idea in the early 2000s.
Bad
and it wasn't a
inventory.
good idea
Okay,
today
one
either.
strike
And this is a
against why I
damn
might
good
want to play
game.
that.
It's a
2
little more
strikes.
engaging than the original Resident Evil plot
2 strikes.
wise,
Bad
but
inventory.
It's also a bit more challenging. The two-player dynamic really adds to
And
the puzzles, and the fact that certain characters have certain slight
might run out of
abilities, like
ammo.
Rebecca being able to concoct different types of herbs, and Billy being able to take more damage and push heavier items around. The dynamic works really, really well, and this is a really good game worth revisiting, especially if you played the HD remake of Resident Evil Remake. This is a good one to jump into because this is just another original Resident Evil story that gets pretty corny at times, but gives you another look into the Umbrella mythos. I'd rate this up there.
I don't know anything about the Umbrella
mythos.
mythos.
Evil games. Resident Evil 0 is really
good. After I learn about these games, should I look at
and for returning players, Capcom
Umbrella
added this cool
stuff?
new mode called Wesker mode, which all you have to do to unlock it is
I've heard of
game.
Wesker.
Then you get to play through the game again, although this time Billy is replaced with Albert Wesker. Yes, Albert Wesker, and you get to kind of do like an anime dash run that knocks down enemies in your path. And
I know people like Wesker.
Laser beams from his eyes that make zombies' heads explode. It's totally awesome.
That's
and
sick.
I was really surprised it didn't break the game, but it's a lot of fun and it's a really good mode. It's worth beating the game and playing around with. If you are a fan of the classic Resident Evil games, or maybe this is your first time really diving into that old school survival horror, I can definitely recommend Resident Evil 0, no doubt.
Okay.
So guys, that's what I think about Resident Evil 0, the HD remaster.
So this dude actually recommends
it, and I want to know if you're going to pick it up, or if you've been spending time with it as well. Let's talk about it down in the comments. Also, if you have any questions about
this was
Resident
short,
Evil 0 or just Resident
sweet.
Evil in general, you
it
need
gave
something cleared
me
up for the lore. I've been obsessed with these games since I was 7 years old, so you can follow
it gave
me on
me
Twitter
like
or Facebook or Instagram or whatever you want. Hopefully you're able to put up with my
here, we'll pause this. So it gave me a quick okay, so like pluses and minuses, like I said, so far. Apparently this is a good story. If I get to play as Wesker, I get to blow fucking zombies' heads off, which is dope. On the negative, they said that the inventory system sucks and that resources are scarce. And I don't really, like, as somebody who hasn't really played these games, I don't really understand what resources are scarce means. Like again, like if I'm out of ammo, am I just like punching zombie? Oh, I might have knives and stuff. Okay, got it. Okay, well, I mean, knifing a zombie versus shooting a zombie is, you know, I'd much rather shoot one. But okay, I get it. Okay, so this is like, I would place this still like 60-40 on whether I would want to play it, I guess. 60 in favor. So let's play the dude who says it's bad. That way I can get more reasons not to, so that I'm not just playing all of these games. All right, let's see. This is why Resident Evil 0 just misses the mark.
Is a very interesting game. It originally started its development on the Nintendo 64 and was planned to be released for the N64's disk drive add-on. Unfortunately, the game went through a lot of difficulties and compatibility issues.
So she's
with
not
the
talking about
N64's
the
hardware.
remake.
Eventually,
in this.
RE0 was shelved, but would later be remade
I don't
on
know
the
if
much
that
more powerful
Nintendo she is
Nintendo
talking about the remake
GameCube.
too.
RE0 was released the same year as the Resident Evil remake on GameCube. 2002 was a great year for Resident Evil fans. We got this incredible remake of a Capcom classic and a brand new entry to the series.
I always forget that they're
later.
Capcom.
I was really
like
excited
Monster
to
Hunter.
play Resident Evil 0 when it came out. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but a lot of people that I would talk to about it either didn't like it or just never got around to finishing it. I always thought this was strange because I loved the game. I was like, hey, more Resident Evil. This is great. I didn't really get why people disliked it, but replaying the game recently, I think I finally get it now. I played RE0 when I was younger, and when you're a young kid, you don't really see the problems that video games have. You just sort of put up with them. But now that I'm old, I could see everything. Today, we'll be taking a look at the things Resident Evil 0 does that hold it back from being a legendary RE title. I hate to do this, but let's talk about it.
Do it. Read it to filth, girl. Tell me what's wrong with it. She's got a great voice, by the way.
Taking place one day before the events of the original Resident Evil, you play as two characters, STARS rookie officer Rebecca Chambers and the escaped criminal Billy Cohen. Together, they uncover the origin of the T-virus and the history of the Umbrella Corporation while surviving against hordes of zombies and other experimental
so the Umbrella
creatures.
Corporation...
The gameplay of RE0 plays like a classic Resident Evil game, with fixed camera angles, pre-rendered backgrounds, tank controls, and a heavy emphasis on resource management and survival. If you've played any of the first 3 Resident Evil games, you'll feel right at home with this game's mechanics. RE0 has its own unique features that make it stand out from the rest of the games, and some of these are good and some of these are bad. In RE0, you literally play the game with 2 characters and can switch between them whenever you like. When controlling one character, the other will be AI controlled, so they'll follow you around and attack enemies. You can also separate the characters and give them orders to stay where they are or to follow you, and whether or not you want them to attack or stay idle during combat. Both Rebecca and Billy have their own strengths and weaknesses. Rebecca is weaker and slower, but she has a chemical mixing set and has the ability to combine herbs together.
She's like
Billy
a
moves a lot
scientist.
faster and has more HP than Rebecca.
Is that a
and
fucking
he also has a premium
spider?
lighter in his inventory, which actually isn't that useful. I really like this
Absolutely
feature.
not, bro.
It's awesome separating the characters and being able to explore
Okay, that's
different
another
rooms
downgrade.
and having the option
There's
to switch
fucking
back and
spiders.
forth between them right away without any loading
Fuck
screens.
me.
It reminded me of Resident Evil 2 when you play as Leon and you have Ada with you, but imagine if you could switch to Ada. That's sort of the vibe I got from it. I think it's refreshing to have
Ada's
this kind of
the
feature in a
Asian
classic
girl,
Resident
I
Evil
think.
style game, but there aren't a ton of opportunities for individual character exploration outside of the scripted sections of the game where both characters are on their own. What I mean
You're
by that
watching
is
Resident
if
Evil
you
with
don't have to have
mommy?
the characters
Yeah?
separated, there's no point in exploring alone. You could take down enemies way
Yeah, no,
easier
Dad,
together
Dad's at
and
work.
you'll have more inventory space between both characters. I feel the
He's at
game
work.
could have done more with this, but what it actually does with some of the puzzles is pretty cool. But yeah, I'd recommend
Everybody say
just
hi to
keeping
Baby
the
Sleepy.
characters together for the most part. Another feature exclusive to this game is the ability to drop items wherever you want. Now you no
Yeah,
longer
the
need
other
to store
person
your
said
stuff
that.
in an item box like in the original games. When you drop an item from your inventory, it shows up on your map so you can keep track of it.
Yeah.
This
That
also
still
goes for
sounds like a
items that
pain
you
in the
find
fucking
but
ass,
don't
bro.
pick up. This feature is pretty controversial because while you have the ability to drop items wherever you want, the developers removed the traditional Resident Evil item boxes from this game. So say you get to a new area of the game and you want to bring all of your items and weapons you found throughout your journey. You have to manually transport everything to the new area. Like, sometimes you have to make multiple trips back and forth.
I don't like that,
This is also another
bro.
reason why you should have both characters together, because at least with both of them, you'll have more space to carry all your stuff to the new places you go to. I'm sure the people that have played this game already know what I'm talking about and know how lame it is that you literally have to throw all of your items on the floor if you want to pick up new things, or if you just don't want them in your inventory. I'm not saying
Yeah, I
they
don't
shouldn't
like
have
that.
implemented this feature, but why not just also have the item boxes too? I don't understand. Like, imagine getting to a new area and there's just an item box there with all of your stuff in it. They did this in 4 games leading up to this one. Guys, I am so baffled by this. Like, why not just give me the option to drop things on the ground or into a universal item box? I really don't get it. I think it's interesting because the beginning of this game takes place on a train, and the environment isn't huge. It's like the perfect size for these new features. Dropping an item and coming back to it later is no big deal because the entire train is like 3 cars long. By the way, I really enjoyed the train sequence. It was really cool playing through a
God,
train
there's
level for
another
the first
fucking
time in a
bug,
Resident Evil
bro.
game, and it's definitely one of the highlights of this game for me.
That's
But like I said
another.
before, once you get past the train and move on to new areas, you have to carry all of your stuff around and find a good place to drop it off. I wish that item dropping was my only complaint with this game. Unfortunately, there are a few more things that bug me about RE0.
Like
Right
bugs?
after that train sequence, the next area of the game is the Umbrella Training Facility. The training facility is similar in layout to the mansion from the first game. It's definitely the longest area, and while it's not bad, it just feels like more of the same, especially since all of the areas after the training facility are really unique or cool callbacks to another Resident Evil game. I think this is where most people give up on RE0 as well. The pacing slows down a lot from the beginning train sequence, and this part of the game introduces some
like
of
that.
the most annoying enemies in a Resident Evil game. I am 100% serious about this, guys. So, if you didn't know, each Resident Evil game tends to have its own unique enemies outside of the zombies. For example,
okay.
RE2 has lickers and the plant creatures, and RE3 has creatures like Nemesis and the advanced hunters. In RE0, one of the new enemy types are leeches. More specifically,
Ew.
the leech men. These guys really suck. They're very bullet spongy, and their weakness is fire, which fire-based weapons like the Molotov cocktail and flame grenades are extremely hard to come by. The leechmen have long-distance attacks too. They can hit you from across the room, even off-screen, so sometimes
like
it can be hard
that.
to track where they are when you enter a room. There are also a ton of them in certain parts of the facility, which makes for some really annoying segments of gameplay. Also, if you kill one without a fire weapon, they swell up and explode, which also hurts you and leaves leeches behind that can crawl on you and drain your
Ew.
HP.
Too many bugs.
The
I
leechmen
think
aren't the most fun to fight.
I think I'm
but
already
you can
sold
easily
off of
dispatch
this
them
by
if you
too
know
many
what you're
bugs.
doing. By far, the worst Resident Evil enemy is the Eliminator. Imagine fighting a smaller version of a hunter that has a ton of HP, can attack you while moving, and has the ability to jump off walls whenever they want. These little monkeys are the worst. If you don't have to fight them, save your ammo and just leave the room. It's not worth the headache and potential death. One of the worst things that happened to me in this game was I was on one of my item transportation adventures and I got stuck in a corner just getting hit over and over again by two of these little bastards.
It looks like that fucking nut punched him, bro. Oh my god. So I was 60-40 on yes playing this. I think I'm now like 70-30 on no playing this.
Like, I really don't think these enemies work well in this gameplay system. It's really hard to shoot something that jumps all over the place with tank controls. They take a lot of damage too,
Oh,
so like a
fuck.
shotgun, which you'd think would kill one of these guys in
Well-
one hit, it doesn't work well against them. And I feel
We'll
grenade
keep-
rounds are too valuable to be wasted on a common enemy.
We'll keep watching these just because now I'm interested in the story. Maybe I'll look up a story game. A story video. But I can't. So I did not grow up gaming. I've tried playing with tank controls. Dad's at work, buddy. I've tried playing with tank controls. I can't fucking stand them. Dead ass. Like, I just can't do it. So if this is tank control, like, that's 100% out. I am 2 feet out the door now. But yeah, after this video, instead of watching why it's underrated, I'll just look up something about the story. You'll just have to give me a second.
Like this. Like I said before, just save your ammo unless you encounter these guys in like a puzzle room or something. The only strategy I can recommend if you absolutely have to kill them is, as you enter a room you know they're in, just start firing. And if you don't hear anything moving, try to get a little closer to get better shots in on them. Thankfully, after you get past the facility, they never really show up again, so that's good, I guess. The bosses are pretty uninteresting. Not all
It's a
of them,
gigantic
just some
fucking
of them.
scorpion,
Like,
bro.
most of them are
Disgusting.
just giant versions of real-life animals. Like, ooh, a big scorpion. Ooh, a big bat. Ooh, it's another big
I don't mind the
thing.
bat.
Almost all of the battles
Oh,
don't
God,
use
why
both
so many
characters at the
goddamn
same time.
bugs?
I think there are two
Are there
bosses in
always
the entire
bugs
game
in
where
Resident
you can use
Evil?
both characters to fight. I kind of see why they designed a lot of the bosses to be fought one-on-one, because
Yeah,
bosses
like,
do a lot
is
of
it-
damage, and sometimes your AI-controlled partner won't shoot for
Ew.
some reason, and will just stand there taking damage. So I could see how that could have been frustrating in the testing phase of this game. I'd like to mention that
Disgusting,
the
bro.
hypest moment for me was seeing little Rebecca take down a tyrant all by herself. It made me really proud. Which actually brings me to the next thing that really bugs me about this game.
Okay.
The stories in the Resident Evil games have always been simple. There's a virus, there are monsters, you're trapped in a house or city, try and make it out alive. I have some problems with story elements in this game. I think it's safe to say that Resident Evil Code Veronica X was the first game in the series that really jumped the shark in a lot of ways. Wesker wall running and ancient BOW women throwing fireballs. It gets very silly in an almost magical way. I understand that the T-Virus and zombies are just fantasy, but Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 told their stories in a more believable way through science fiction that I could totally see happening within the world of Resident Evil. RE0
Okay.
gets pretty magical with its leeches, from just being liquid to instantly turning into physical leeches that can leap through the air, to replicating an elderly man right down to the detail in his suit, and literally resurrecting said elderly man and de-aging his appearance. This is insane. Some of the
What
things
the
that happen in
fuck,
this game
bro?
are just so ridiculous and hard to believe with what we know about the lore of this world. It's unbelievable and makes the game less scary, which, by the way, if you're making a horror game, you should at least try to avoid goofy things like controlling leeches by singing opera. Ugh.
Wait, what? That's fucking hilarious, bro. What the fuck? That's wild.
So yeah, Resident Evil 0 also jumps the shark a couple times throughout its story, But there is also something else that really annoys me about this game. So another thing that Resident Evil games do really well is containing their stories to just their particular games. There are never any cliffhangers leading into the next game. These are complete stories we're talking about here. As you know, this game takes place
but they do tie together
before the events in the Spencer Mansion. If you're unaware, Rebecca Chambers, the main character in this game, is in Resident Evil 1 when you play as Chris. When you meet Rebecca in RE1, she's very innocent and kinda helpless. You even have to save her from a hunter that has her cornered in a room. I'm sorry, but this girl wouldn't need any help dealing with a single hunter. I seem to recall her taking out hunters left and right one day earlier all by herself in that spooky underground laboratory. She also took out a tyrant all by herself twice. What is this? As soon as she gets to the Spencer Mansion, she should have a bunch of weapons and enough items to deal with whatever threats are thrown at her.
Good point.
When I first played this game when I was younger, I noticed this inconsistency between the two games. And if a young kid notices the holes in your plot, I don't know, maybe you should think about getting a new job or something. I know it's not that big of a deal, but it's just something that bothers me about this game. Rebecca is so strong by the end, then in RE1 she's like back to being a rookie, I guess. I don't know, maybe if she got like fatally wounded at the end of Zero, it would make sense why she's all weak again.
So she's in
RE1.
multiple games.
The more I think about it, the more heated I get.
Okay.
It may seem like I hate this game, but that's not true. I really like it, and I always have fun when I play it. I'm just looking at it through a lens of tough love. I've played through Resident Evil 0 about 4 times since its release back on the GameCube. And it's kind of weird how I never really noticed a lot of these faults with the game's design until playing it again recently. I can't really blame Capcom for trying something different with their classic Resident Evil gameplay system. When this game came out, a lot of fans and game critics were kind of fed up with the standard Resident Evil formula and wanted something new. Sadly, those new features mostly held it back from being a legendary game like the first 3 Resident Evils. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the game is bad or isn't worth playing. It also did a bunch of things right. It has the best pre-rendered backgrounds in the series, and some of the tightest animation and control when it comes to a survival horror game. Also, when you pick up an item, you have the option to combine or use said item if your inventory is full, which is a godsend for a Resident Evil game. I think everything after the training facility is pretty good. There's an amazing part where you go through an environment straight out of Resident Evil 2, and it looks so great remade in these graphics. It's just a shame that a lot of people missed out on these cool things because they got hung up on the more annoying parts in the early game. If you're a fan of survival horror and you haven't played RE0 yet, I think you should give it a shot. Just beware of all the things I talked about in this video. If you can get past the first few hours, I think you'll be in for a real treat for the latter half of the game. I highly recommend playing the HD remaster that came out a few years ago. It's like $20 and definitely worth every penny. Even with all of its flaws, I think Resident Evil 0 tried to do some really cool things, but fell short while doing them. It's not the best Resident Evil game, but it's pretty good. And that's why Resident Evil 0 just misses the mark.
All right, Jack, give me a second. I'm gonna go find basically like a lore video on 0 because I already know I can't play it because the controls. So give me a sec.
Released
That was pretty easy to find something. Okay, so this is the ultimate recap of Resident Evil 0. So it's 11 minutes, not a big deal. Sick. This is the last thing we'll watch on this today. We might get into Resident Evil 1 or just Resident Evil. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out which of these I need to put on my list as games to play after the new one, because there's no way I'm going to have time to finish any of them before the new one. And I think that obviously any of the ones with tank controls aren't going to be ones that I play. But it would still be nice to like know what the story and the history is of Resident Evil. Yeah, so let's find out.
by Capcom in the year 2002 on the Nintendo GameCube, Resident Evil 0 would be the prequel story for the franchise, taking place one day before the events of the first Resident Evil.
Wait a
and
second.
explaining the origin.
Everything that happens in Resident Evil Zero happens one day before Resident Evil. So everything that happens in that game takes place in a singular day. All right, let's find out how crazy that is, I guess.
Origins of the T-Virus.
Let's
Directed
find
by
out how
Koji
crazy that
Oda
is.
And written by series regular Noboru Sugimura, the game started development on the Nintendo 64 console before needing to be rebuilt on the GameCube for need of greater memory. For story, 2 characters will be controlled at the same time, stars rookie Rebecca Chambers
hell?
and newcomer Billy Cohen. The player could switch between control of the 2 partners at any time in a new swapping system, which would add new complexity of puzzle solving, combat, and item management. The player could have the characters follow each other or send them off to explore entirely separate areas at the same time, and jump between controlling each or letting one be an AI. For gameplay, while much remains unchanged from Resident Evil 2, including fixed camera angles, the biggest change is the removal of item boxes and universal storage. Now, players have the ability to put down items from their inventory on the ground, or swap between the 2 characters, adding a new challenge to survival and resource management. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. On July 23, 1998, the luxurious Umbrella-owned train, the Ecliptic Express, is making its way through the night when a mysterious man looks on from above. Suddenly, the train is pelted by bizarre and horrifying leeches as they crash in and begin engulfing the train and its passengers.
Bro,
2 hours later, a Special Tactics and Rescue
disgusting.
Police Force Bravo team was already on its way in
Disgusting.
investigation of a series of strange murders in the woods outside Raccoon City, when their helicopter experiences an engine failure and forces them to crash land.
Oh shit.
As they explore the surrounding area, they find a crashed military police truck and the bodies of officers within that were supposed to be transporting Billy Cohen, an ex-lieutenant sentenced to death for killing 23 people.
Oh
Thinking Billy
shit.
killed his
Okay.
captors and escaped, they fan out and survey the area. As Rebecca searches, she spots a stalled train nearby, and as rain begins to pour in, she closes the door to safety behind her as she boards the Ecliptic Express. Looking around, she is shocked to see several corpses littering the train, and more surprised when they begin animating and moving to attack her. She opens fire and escapes.
So she had
and finding
never
some
seen
journals,
zombies
she learns
before.
the passengers here were to investigate the nearby Arklay Mountains laboratory and check on the abandoned
Okay.
experiments there. They also mention checking in on the shutdown management training facility also in the Arklay Mountains. She is approached at gunpoint by Billy himself, who quickly dismisses her as not a threat and moves on. Soon after, her teammate Edward crashes in, gravely injured and gasping out that the forest is full of zombies and monsters. He dies before long and is soon pursued by some zombie dogs crashing in after him. After surviving that,
Poor
Rebecca gets a
zombie
scrambled
dogs,
message from
they
her
didn't
captain on
ask
Rico
for
not to
that.
trust Billy, though it isn't long before she encounters Billy again, who proposes they work together to escape alive. She rejects him outright, claiming she can handle herself, but Billy keeps the offer open.
Hell yeah, she's a strong, independent
Exploring ahead, she
woman.
finds the body of a man that shockingly liquefies into leeches, which reassemble themselves into a strange mimicry of a well-dressed but floppy man. As she
Ew.
fires at him, he explodes into a mass of leeches that seek her out and almost engulf her, though Billy jumps in and expertly fires them off her body just in time. Suddenly, they all pull back
Disgusting.
en masse as the duo sees them returning to a man outside, highlighted by the lightning. Before they can wonder who he is, the train shudders as it begins moving again, and they think to check out the engine car and see who's controlling the train. Rebecca
Oh, yeah, that
reluctantly
makes
agrees
sense.
to work with Billy going forward, and they agree to stay in constant contact with walkie-talkies. With Rebecca's knowledge and ability to mix herbs and chemicals, and Billy's toughness and physical strength, they begin to learn how to work with each other. Encountering and defeating an escaped Scorpion BOW that was being transported, they work past encroaching leeches,
BOW?
unaware of the actions of 2 Umbrella agents
What is
also
a
on the train.
BOW?
Elsewhere, STARS Captain Albert Wesker and scientist William Birkin are overseeing the operatives on the train, wondering how there is an incident in both the mansion and the train that was 3 miles away. Wesker makes it clear he wants the train destroyed as evidence, but this is interrupted as he hears his team get devoured by a sudden swarm of leeches. Now,
So
Rebecca and Billy
Wesker's
find the
a
engine car
good
empty
guy,
but out of control,
right?
and work quickly to activate the emergency brakes. The
Right,
brakes are applied
right?
and the train screeches to a halt, but not before striking a few barriers and toppling over to one side. Waking up sometime later, the duo was shaken but still alive, and finding themselves in a strange new building. Billy sees the facility for the famous pharmaceutical company Umbrella, and Rebecca spots a painting with the exact same likeness as the leech man she encountered before. The painting
Disgusting.
is actually of Dr. James Marcus, the first general manager of Umbrella, and they are unaware again of Wesker and Birkin looking on, though Wesker dismisses Rebecca as a
Oh,
threat.
they're just fucking
Instead,
watching
a new voice
them?
calls out Wesker and Birkin directly, introducing himself as the man who released the T-virus in the mansion and also contaminated the train. He
Bruh.
declares his revenge on Umbrella and commands the leeches, who form together Dr. Marcus again, and whom is recognized instantly by Wesker and Birkin. The man explains that Dr. Marcus was murdered 10 years ago by Umbrella and laughs at Wesker and Birkin, knowing they helped with that.
So Wesker's
Back with Rebecca and
not
Billy,
a
they learn
good
this is an
guy.
umbrella training facility for future management personnel, but also see several infected creatures like bugs and birds littered the
It's
abandoned rooms,
complicated.
and so they look to
Okay.
find a way out safely. After defeating one especially large mutated centipede, they work past the riddles and secrets of this new puzzle box of a facility and find a journal belonging to Dr. Marcus, noting he discovered a new virus and named it Progenitor, and his colleague Spencer pushed to start a new company called Umbrella with these findings. Marcus allowed a partnership with Spencer, if only to continue his research and testing of Progenitor, leading to him mixing it with leech DNA, and the resulting more powerful virus being named T for Tyrant.
Okay, I know about
Secretly,
the,
Marcus
well, I
began
don't,
human
I've
testing
heard
with
of the T virus.
completing his testing
I
with
don't
leeches,
really know
and was prepared
much
to
about
formally
it.
announce T and secure his position in the company. Later, he knew someone was snooping around his lab, but trusted his assistants Wesker and Birkin to deal with it. They find a literal secret dungeon hidden below the facility, but the mysterious man is aware of their presence and lets loose some old experiments to deal with the trespassers. As Billy and Rebecca split up to explore, Rebecca is attacked by the early T-virus primate subjects, codenamed Eliminators, and takes a tumble down a hole. Elsewhere, Birkin is in disbelief at whom Wesker suspects the mysterious man to be, but Wesker stresses the importance of keeping secret the old conspiracy against Marcus buried, lest Spencer's and their own positions at Umbrella be compromised. Wesker declares his intention to leave Umbrella now, explaining that the biological weapon made with the T-virus is almost completed and they need only combat data now. Birkin disagrees, saying it's too early, as while he's done with researching the T-virus, he's not done completing the more powerful G-virus. Wesker doesn't care, saying he intends to lure Star members to the mansion and use their superior training as test subjects. So Birkin adds that they can at least destroy this facility with a self-destruct device built in, which he'll find and set off, thus taking care of this loose end. Meanwhile, Rebecca's hanging on a limb
Oh,
and Billy
shit.
hurries to rescue her just in time. She's grateful, though Captain Enrico calls in, asking her if she's found Billy yet,
That
to
would've
which she
been bad.
denies everything. She turns to him and asks him for the true story behind his charge of killing 23 people, saying she won't judge him, and just wants to know the truth. Billy explains that
Girl!
a year ago, his unit was deployed in Africa and on a mission to raid the hideout of an enemy guerrilla force, but many of his unit fell in the course of the mission until there were only a few left. When they arrived, they learned that they were sent the wrong information, and there wasn't an enemy hideout, but rather a normal innocent village. Not wanting to return at a loss, his unit commander ordered them to kill the villagers,
Oh,
but that's when
shit.
trouble started. He stops there, though Rebecca is still curious, since she doubts Billy killed even the MPs transporting him. He drops the topic, explaining none of it matters, since now his only options are either serve his sentence or keep running. Finding more
You
secrets
better
in this
run,
deadly
buddy.
mansion and more deadly experiments let loose, they learn Marcus's leeches eventually formed a collective mentality and intelligence, and
They have a
acquired
fucking
curious skills
hive
like the ability
mind?
to mimic humans, especially Dr. Marcus himself. Billy
Bruh.
wonders if the mysterious man is Marcus's son or possibly grandson, but soon finds a cable car they can use to escape. They're caught off guard when an Eliminator knocks Billy over a railing and a leech man sneaks up behind Rebecca. Surviving that but now on her own again, Rebecca continues on and discovers a monstrously large and strange humanoid in a capsule. Finding a train elevator and taking it down, she's surprised to run into Captain Enrico again, who says he's looking for the rest of the Bravo team that's disappeared. Rebecca drops that
Good
she's
luck
actually
with
found Billy,
that.
but lost him recently, but Enrico dismisses that. She insists on looking for Billy, so Enrico just tells her to catch up with him ahead as he searches for yet another old mansion in these woods. She agrees, though as it turns out, this will be the last time she ever sees him. She moves ahead, but is suddenly startled by the humanoid monster she saw earlier, now eyeing her down. It turns out to be the prototype Tyrant experiment, prematurely out of its tank, but no less dangerous for it. Rebecca manages to fend off the lunging BOW and succeed in knocking it down long enough to get away,
What the fuck is
but
a
she's still under the eye of the mysterious man,
BOW?
who is no longer amused by her meddling. She soon discovers Billy unconscious and stranded on some debris in an underground river, but something in the water knocks him away, washing him away beyond her reach. Navigating the water treatment plant, she finds and resuscitates Billy, but they see this is where several older bodies have also washed up. Billy suspects these were victims of Marcus's experiments and mentions Marcus was working on another
bioorganic
virus.
weapon. Thank you.
Reunited once
chat.
more, they focus on escaping again, but don't get far as something else washes up behind them. The T-001 prototype claws out of the water, now mostly regenerated, but more hulking than before. However, it's no match for their teamwork and combined fire, and they escape its clutches again. Crossing a dam, they pause when discovering a room full of leeches and are greeted by the mysterious young man again. They ask him his identity and are in disbelief when the man's face morphs into the long-dead Dr. Marcus's. Marcus chuckles and explains 10 years ago his partner Spencer had him assassinated with the help of his once trusted assistants Wesker and Birkin. However, what no one expected is that the intelligent leeches he cultivated slipped inside his dead body and consumed him from the inside, including his brain. With the memories within now absorbed by the Queen Leech, Marcus was revived in a way by his creation, whom also inherited his desire for revenge against Umbrella, now thinking itself to be Marcus. Revealing the true form of the Queen Leech mimicking Dr. Marcus, it lumbers after the duo, though they succeed in overwhelming it with firepower. They begin ascending with a cargo lift to a heliport when they see the Queen Leech regenerate and come after them, and to make matters worse, they hear the facility's self-destruct mechanism has been triggered. The Queen Leech grows massive in size and strength, but Rebecca notes it's photosensitive and weakened in the sunlight. Splitting up now, Rebecca now works to open the heliport gate while Billy distracts the monster as live bait, and down to the wire, their teamwork wins again as they open up the gate, flooding the heliport with fresh daylight. The Queen Leech struggles to escape the harsh sunlight, but Rebecca finds a loaded magnum and tosses it to Billy, who catches it, fires it, and the impact of the weapon staggers the Queen hard enough to force it toppling back down the shaft, where it's consumed by the flames of the engulfing explosion. Billy and Rebecca hurry out just in time as the training facility mansion explodes behind them, destroying the evidence of Dr. Marcus and his legacy. As the game ends, Billy hurls his handcuffs away, no longer feeling shackled, and they come across the mansion Captain Enrico said he would investigate. She takes his dog tags and makes the official claim he's been killed by the zombies with these tags as proof. Rebecca then salutes Billy as they say farewell to each other and part ways, with Rebecca unknowingly entering another nightmare and Billy off to an unknown future. Resident Evil 0 has enjoyed the success of selling over 2 million copies worldwide.
Damn, okay. Alright guys, I'm going to take a quick break for lunch and then we'll look at regular Resident Evil stuff, okay? I'll see you in a sec.